Kia ora ana koutou katoa. Greetings to everyone. Today's episode is about a question that sounds simple on the surface, but clearly isn't. Should the Cook Islands change their flag? Over the past few weeks, this question was put to the public on my personal Facebook page. What followed was not a quiet discussion, not a polite debate, but a flood of comments. Passionate, emotional, angry at times, thoughtful at others, and overwhelmingly clear in one direction. This episode is not about my personal opinion, and it's not pushing a campaign. This episode is about listening and learning. Because if we're going to talk about national symbols, identity, history, pride, then the first thing we should do is hear what the people are actually saying. Before going any further, it's important to explain how this episode was built. I collected hundreds of Facebook comments responding directly to the question, should the Cook Islands change this flag? And when I mean this flag, it had an image of the current flag of the Cook Islands. These comments were copied directly from the discussion, compiled into a document, read carefully line by line, with the reactions being ignored. Names were not the focus, the content was. This is qualitative data, not a scientific poll. But when hundreds of people independently say similar things, patterns emerge. And those patterns, in my opinion, matter. What you're about to hear is not selective cherry picking, it's a summary of what people repeatedly said, both for and against change. And here's the blunt truth up front. The overwhelming majority said no. But why they said no? Now this is where the real conversation begins. The most dominant response by far was a firm, often emotional rejection of changing the flag. Not just no, but, and I quote, hell no, absolutely not, no bloody way, leave it alone. Many didn't feel the need to explain further. For them, the question itself felt unnecessary, even offensive. But many did explain why, and their reasoning was consistent. We have bigger problems. This was the most single repeated argument across the comments. People are tired of symbolic debates while real issues remain unresolved. Comments included, and I quote, fix the roads first. What about the water system? Improve the health system? Pay our people better? Cost of living is killing families. One person put it bluntly, changing a flag won't feed our people. Another said, is changing the flag going to improve wages or housing? If not, why are we talking about it? This isn't apathy, this is priority fatigue. Many commenters weren't defending the flag passionately, they were defending practical survival. The underlying message was clear: symbolism feels hollow when basic needs aren't being met. For many people, the current flag isn't just cloth, it's continuity. The 15 stars came up repeatedly as the most important element. People said things like, and I quote, the stars represent us. That's our identity. Those stars are our islands. Several people mentioned growing up with this flag, seeing it flown overseas, at sports events, at international forums. One comment stood out: the world already knows our flag, why erase that? Another said, our ancestors lived and died under this flag, it's part of our story now. This group doesn't deny history, they don't deny colonization, but they see the flag as something that has evolved into Cook Islands ownership, regardless of its origins. A strong undercurrent throughout the comments was distrust. People repeatedly asked, why now? Who benefits? Who decided this was important? Some of these comments were blunt, and I quote, change the government, not the flag. Another one says, This is just another distraction. And another says, stop wasting money. Others link the flag debate to earlier discussions about changing the country's name or passport, saying, first the name, now the flag. What's next? This tells me something important. People aren't just reacting to the flag, they're reacting to process. There is a real fear of decisions being made about the people, not with them. Now, let's be clear, there were people who said yes to changing the flag. Their arguments were more detailed, more ideological, and more focused on colonial symbolism. The Union Jack was the core issue. Comments included, and I quote, "It doesn't represent who we are. It represents colonization. Why are we still flying Britain on our flag?" Some share deeply personal experiences, particularly around language loss and cultural suppression, linking those experiences directly to colonization. One comment said, and I quote, "We were denied our language. That flag reminds us of that pain." Many in this group proposed alternatives. Return to green and gold, keep the 15 stars instead, add indigenous symbols, or remove the Union Jack entirely. Importantly, most people in this comment section were not attacking Cook Islanders who disagree. They were arguing from a place of identity or reclaiming that identity. But even among the people who understood the argument for change, many still opposed it. Why? Because of cost and division. People asked, and I quote, "Who's paying for this? Can we afford it? Is this worth splitting the nation over?" Several pointed out that flags appear on uniforms. Government documents would need replacing. Diplomatic updates would be required. And tourism branding would be affected. One comment summed it up, and I quote, "A lot of money for something that doesn't change lives." If there is one takeaway from reading all the comments, for me, it's this. This debate is not really about a flag. It's about trust in leadership, cultural confidence, historical pain, fear of losing stability, and a desire for dignity. The flag became a symbolic battleground for unresolved national conversations. That's why I believe emotions ran so high on this post on Facebook. So, should the Cook Islands change their flag? Based on the comments, the majority clearly say no. The reasons are practical, emotional, and come from a place of historical importance. The minority calling for change do raise legitimate questions about identity and colonization, but there is no consensus for action. And that matters, because changing a national symbol without broad unity doesn't really work. It creates division. One of the most reasonable comments said this, and I quote, "If change ever comes, it must come from the people, not from pressure, not from politics." That's where I'll leave it, not with an answer, but with a reflection. A flag can be changed, but trust, unity, and well-being are much harder to rebuild once lost. Mei te ki maata for listening. Kia ora na koutou katoto. Ka kite.